Is God just a mental concept, or is he a reality outside of the mind? Could it be that this is just like the story of the little green men? We're going to look into the oldest and most dangerous arguments for and against the existence of God and see how all of them get turned upside down. These are the reasons that great philosophers have given for God, and they're worth seeing at least once. They'll solve your mental dilemma for good. Without wasting any time, let's get to the first argument. Is it possible to prove God's existence just by thinking? Or is there an argument that proves God's existence solely through imagination?
Really?
Just imagine it. A monk is sitting in a church praying and meditating, when it occurs to him that if he imagines something and that thing is perfect, then it is better for it to exist than not to exist. Therefore, that thing must exist. This was the argument of that monk in the 11th century. He thought he had proven God's existence just that simply. Isn't that strange? Can you really prove the existence of this divine being just by thinking without any observation of the real world? Let's move on to the strangest, most controversial, and most historic argument out there. It says that even an atheist can imagine a perfect being, and that perfect being is God. It's ridiculous, isn't it? Therefore, God exists. It's that simple, like a child's game.
Bet you I can prove God exists.
Bet you can't.
Right then. Imagine the most perfect thing possible. Now, is that perfect thing real? Does it exist?
No, it's only in my mind.
But if it was real, it would be even more perfect, because a really perfect thing would have to be better than a silly old imaginary thing. So I've proved that God exists.
If we put it in childish terms, not only is this argument wrong, but it's also mentally irritating. Russell, the 20th century philosopher, was once fooled by this argument, and as he was walking home from buying tobacco, he said,
"My God, this argument is correct."
And later he admitted it.
It's easy to see that there's a flaw in this argument, but it's hard to pinpoint exactly what the flaw is.
But really, why didn't he consider that it might just be a language game playing with words? Great philosophers like Hume and Kant took this argument much more seriously and said,
"It is a strange thing that existence itself is a perfection."
What are they actually saying here? They're saying that a house that actually exists is better than a house that's only in our minds. Well, what does that even mean? The Australian philosopher Douglas Gaskin came up with a counter-argument to this reasoning and said,
"If the creation of the world is a wonderful thing, then someone who does not exist and yet created the world is even more wonderful. So a God who does not exist is better than a God who does exist. The result? God does not exist."
Of course, neither Anselm managed to prove the existence of God, nor could Gaskin prove his non-existence. They were just playing with words. There was even a time when a mathematician named Euler tried to prove God's existence with a mathematical equation. Many people got confused and left the scene. It was a game with numbers, and then a journalist came up with a new argument and said,
"Because our energy does not disappear, we are immortal."
"This is the ultimate one." There are almost 300 types of these kinds of proofs on the Godless Geeks website, and I'll put the link for you in the description. Be sure to check it out. Take a look at these arguments. Your brain will be blown away. Stay with us for the rest of the video. I've brought you much more beautiful arguments from great philosophers along with their critiques. The question of the existence or non-existence of God is far greater than something we can answer with mind games, mathematical formulas, or the prayers of a priest from the time of Moses. So we need to examine scientific and precise data. Arguments for the existence of God have been developed by divine philosophers for centuries, and those with sound minds, despite their misunderstandings, have endorsed them. I will present to you the 5 ways proposed by Thomas Aquinas, which many have endorsed. Thomas's proofs do not clarify everything. If we think about them, their emptiness becomes easily apparent. The first 3 arguments of Aquinas actually express the same point, and all 3 present one idea in different ways. In fact, the answer to one question gives rise to another question. Let's look at these 3 arguments together. Let's look at the unmoved mover argument, the uncaused cause argument, and the cosmological argument together.
Nothing moves without a prior mover. This leads us to a regress, from which the only escape is God. Something had to make the first move, and that's something we call God. Nothing is caused by itself. Every effect has a prior cause, and again we are pushed back into regress. This has to be terminated by a first cause, which we call God. There must have been a time when no physical things existed. But since physical things exist now, there must have been something non-physical to bring them into existence, and that's something we call God.
All three of these arguments are about putting an end to an infinite regress. Even if we accept the mistaken assumption that God is the one who ends this infinite regress, we should not attribute human-like qualities to him, such as forgiving sins or answering prayers. Breaking this infinite regress is at best useless and at worst misleading. Let's listen to the argument of degrees of existence together.
We notice that things in the world differ. There are degrees of, say, goodness or perfection, but we judge these degrees only by comparison with a maximum.
But if this is considered an argument, then I will present a counter-argument as well. There is a limit to people's stench and evil, and if we imagine an extremely stinky and evil person, we would have to give it a name to say this is the maximum, and it becomes a standard for comparison. Is this kind of argument valid as well? And you know you can substitute any other attribute in its place? Let's listen to the argument of the age or design of the universe together.
The teleological argument, or argument from design. Things in the world, especially living things, look as though they have been designed. Nothing that we know looks designed unless it is designed. Therefore, there must have been a designer, and we call him God.
Darwin himself, when he was an undergraduate, was fooled by this argument, but later he solved it and said that the design of humans is the result of evolution. And as a joke, but from their perspective, it's real. We will share with you a few of the arguments that were on this website. Be sure to listen.
A child survived a plane crash. So there is a God. If things were different, they would be different, which would be bad. So there is a God. I really, really believe that there is a God. So there is a God.
They came up with these arguments, 300 arguments. Many viewers did not understand the meaning of argument. Wherever I mention the word argument in the video, I mean the same as evidence. If there is no God, then who is up there listening to us? Is there anyone else who can hear us? Maybe an intelligent civilization or a superior mind, but not divine? Are we alone or has no answer come yet? Remember at the beginning of the video I mentioned little green men. Do you want to know what connection that has to our story? In the 20th century, a group of scientists, not prophets or priests, decided to listen not for prayers but for signals. A project called SETI, where a British astronomer notably discovered a pulsar, which is a rapidly spinning neutron star that gave off regular pulses and signals. At first, they thought it was an extraterrestrial intelligence that might be sending us a message, and they named the source of the signal. And if extraterrestrial intelligence is detected, perhaps that day our religion, science, philosophy, and reason will all be called into question. Or perhaps it will mark the beginning of a new human adventure. Many people say that the theory of human evolution and natural selection does not contradict the theory of creationism at all. And many scientists consider these two theories to be aligned. In fact, we call this perspective Nouma. The motivation of the scientists who proposed this perspective is in fact a specific American policy. Science came under attack in large parts of the United States in an organized manner, and since scientists needed government funding to pursue their research and their findings were supported by this funding, they had to accept such a school of thought and perspective. The elected representatives, in addition to being accountable to informed individuals, also had to answer to the more fanatical segments of the public. The most significant reactions to this perspective took place at the Center for Science Education, and the head of this association has written many books on the subject. They are currently gathering reasonable supporters who attend church and see no conflict between this contradiction and their faith, and have no problem with evolution. In the upcoming videos, I will share with you the reasons given by Pascal himself, as well as those from the Bible, great scientists, storms, and personal experiences. These reasons and their counter-arguments were so fascinating that I couldn't bring myself to summarize them for you in this video. Don't miss the next video because it presents some very interesting storms and counter-arguments. Anyone who misses the next video will actually be missing out on a major scientific insight. In this research video, we discussed our points from Richard Dawkins' perspective. To help you understand better, dear friends, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a like. Write your comments for us in the comment section. Subscribe to our channel so you don't miss our future research. Until the next video, goodbye.